today. I'm going to be very brief and just say that, look, we understand the importance of UN peacekeeping missions. We thank you for being here to tell us a little bit about some of the progress that may be being made. But I think if all of us understand the terrible, horrible things that UN's peacekeepers are doing to the people they're supposed to be protecting.
So there's certainly a very important benefit to the UN peacekeeping missions, and the overwhelming majority of those who are doing the work are doing it properly. But the sexual abuse by UN peacekeepers must end.
As the previous witnesses have made clear, there is a cancer within the United Nations, and it must be cut out. The scourge of sexual exploitation and abuse by UN peacekeepers continues. The victims of this abuse are real, and the consequences are as well. It would be natural to want to withdraw all UN peacekeepers before more damage can be done. But this basic instinct to protect needs to be balanced against the good that peacekeepers continue to do there. I think the other thing to consider here is the UN Security Council, for over a decade, on both Republican and Democratic administrations, has been pushing for increased peacekeeping missions, increasingly complex, larger missions. And as a result, when the UN comes back and says there aren't enough peacekeepers in the system, there's a real tension between, do we approve larger, more complex missions when we don't really have enough well-trained soldiers with appropriate command and control to carry out those missions? If you look at what's new as a result of what has happened, we actually see for the first time ever military units being repatriated, and you have for the first time ever a policy endorsed by the Security Council saying no more units may be deployed if they have a track record of systematic abuse, or they refuse to get back to the UN as to what they've done in terms of discipline, or they refuse to investigate. This is the first time they've done this. This is new, and we need to ensure that it's enforced so that units from DR Congo are not deployed in future peacekeeping missions unless they fundamentally change the way they do business. It's got to change, and the UN is now committed to that. It's been endorsed by the Security Council, and I think the acceptance of these practices I think is over.
I think that your testimony, I hope that your testimony is going to end up affecting people, in that hopefully thousands of people who otherwise would have been sexually abused, raped, whatever, will not have that experience because of people like you who've been willing to testify in this manner.
We believe if the UN is to root out the bad actors, whether they hail from the developed or developing world, it must show that their newly announced policies endorsed by the Security Council will be implemented with unshakable resolve. Over the past several decades, both Republican and Democratic administrations have strongly supported peacekeeping. This is because it can mean the difference between life and death in the places it deploys.
I was in South Sudan just a couple of months ago in November, and I went there to see the peacekeeping because I had not seen that before, and I was extremely impressed with the people that were there, the people that I met, and it was very clear it was dangerous. As a matter of fact, I think the month before I was there, several of the peacekeepers had been taken hostage. They were released eventually, but it wasn't like they were just sitting back, and watching.
What will be critical going forward is to hold firm there that countries with widespread and systematic abuse are not allowed back in, that this is absolutely essential, and the Security Council needs to back it.
I'm very proud to be the co-chair of the Congressional Peacekeeping Caucus, which I formed with my colleague Adam Kinzinger, and we formed this because we recognize the important role that peacekeepers play in maintaining international peace and stability, and the impact peacekeeping missions have on the United States and our own national security. But we also formed the caucus with the intention of taking a closer look at the areas that are in need of reform. I do think the notion of sort of disengaging from the UN as an effective way to bring about real reform and accountability would be a tragic mistake. In fact, I think this is a moment where we have to deepen our involvement and really engage in an even more serious way if we're going to hope to see any real progress. It's going to require U.S. leadership.